turn on the mic. Hey, even better. Everybody, welcome to the compression. We are going to get started here in a few minutes. If you've got a mobile device, so you can use the chat room, just make sure that you've got the thing turned in the right direction so that you can actually see the typing part. And if you've got a file you want us to look at, please do upload it and send us a link. And if we've got some time, which we probably will today, even with our special guest, we will take a look at it. Cool, we'll get started in just a couple minutes. It's our last week in the fix volume. We've had a lot of weeks here. We've fixed a lot of stuff, but nothing as interesting as what we're going to fix tonight. One of the things, anyway. A little new feature in Adobe products that you may not know about. Although I think we used them a couple weeks ago. We'll see. Surround. Cool. Right side. Left. That's so cool. Left surround. I must have my headphones on backwards. It's over here. Right surround. Center. So cool. I love this Adobe Audition panner with Spatial Audio Designer. And if you weren't listening to that on headphones, you're going, what? I don't hear anything. That's weird. What's he talking about? It just sounds like the music has phase problems, which it would unless you were listening to it on headphones. You can spin around. Let's make it mono. Now let's spin around. Behind. Left. Center. So cool. Spatial Audio Designer in Adobe Audition. All right. Hey everybody, welcome to the Cinema Sound Compression while I pull down the music. If you've been watching us for any of these months, you're probably very tired of that music, but As you know, it's the only music that I can use that hasn't been, of ours in our library, that hasn't been licensed, so it doesn't get a YouTube flag when I put it up, a copyright flag. They'll flag your music even if you own it and you put it up. It's just, if it's been licensed to somebody else, they'll still flag it and say, hey, do you own this? And even after you tell them, yes, we do, they still flag you. It's really, really nice. So, all right, so a couple things to keep in mind. Tonight, we've got about a week or so before February 1st, which is the cutoff for those of you who are still trying to download the Cinema Sound Foley library pre-loaded or pre-purchase stuff. After that, if you need it, you can still download it, but it'll cost $25 because we are overloading our servers to have almost a terabyte of stuff sitting up there for everybody to download. So if you haven't downloaded your libraries, please do so this week. That way, if you have any trouble or any problems, we can suss it out. We've got time before February 1st. All right, cool. I just came from the NAMM show, National Association of Music Merchants, which if any of you are here in Anaheim, definitely let us know because I'd love to meet you. But it's a huge show filled with anything that you can imagine in terms of music creation. Instruments, cellos, violins, stringed instruments, brass instruments, saxophones, winds, high school band, everything. And then, I mean, the entire Anaheim Convention Center is filled with this stuff. And then all manner of pro sound, and then guitars, basses, band, drums, an entire drum thing. I'll probably go over to the drums section and shoot the photos that I do every year of the big Zabian, huge, massive cymbal wall that's there. Then, of course, it's software and all kinds of things. So one of the things that I do, other than hang out with our sponsors and things like that, is see if there's any other cool software out there that we can provide, get a discount for, or just show you how to use. And there's a piece of software called Gullfoss. I know it sounds like it. Well, I'm not going to tell you what I think it sounds like, a mixture of. But it's like the good sound button. And it's $200, but I'm trying to get a deal on it for Cinema Sound members because for stereo mixes in particular, you drop this thing on a mix, you tweak a couple little knobs, and it's like magic. It's a psychoacoustic, well, EQ is a really irreverent thing to call what this does, but we're gonna do some educational videos on it. But when we do this, I mean, it's originally kind of designed for music, but you can do it on surround by doing stereo buses of front and surround. Certainly for stereo, for any kind of down mix or any stereo delivery for internet. It is unbelievable. So it looks like they're gonna let us do some videos and give us a discount, which is super cool. I don't have a whole lot of business to talk about tonight. Hey, Jody. If you guys got a file that you want us to look at, or it's the last week of the fix section. After this, we're into effects and moving into all kinds of how to fix, or how to create sound effects, record them, all that great stuff. So if you got a file you want us to look at, this is the time. Drop it, drop the link in the little texty thing, and if we have time, we'll get to it. But we do have a file that we are gonna look at tonight that was brought in by somebody else, and that somebody else is our guest, Mr. Sven Kam, who if you've been with us at all, you were with us a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago. And he's an Emmy Award-winning editor and director. And he's going to be bringing us some juice from Premiere, and we're going to be looking at some stuff in Premiere and Audition in terms of fixing really, really bad stuff. But he's going to be bringing some other things too. So we are doing something we've never done before, and that is remote. He's not actually here at Cinema Sound. He's at his place at IPA Studios. Let me see if I can make this work. I'm going to go like this, and turn his speaker on, and then turn this on so that I can hear him. Can we hear you, sir?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear you now.
There you go.
Hey, you got some nice headphones there.
I did. They're little. They're not like as big as your Cinema Sound PC. There you go. The official Cinema Sound headphones. I've got the little. I had to do something.
I had to do something. Otherwise, that latency was awful.
It was too much.
Cool. So welcome to the show yet again. You're the guest number 2, second time. Guest number 1, second time, whatever that is. Tell us what you've been up to.
I've just been working on my education. It's not as vast as the Cinema Sound library, but we're working on a producer's workshop. so that you can learn every aspect of producing for film and for content creation. So that's at IPA Studios. So we've been doing that.
Cool. What's IPA stand for?
IPA is the Independent Producers Academy.
It's not like beer.
It's not beer, but it has that beer feeling. It's like the end of the day of that good beer feeling.
If you like
IPA.
Yeah, if you like beer.
If you like beer.
If you don't like beer, then it's not that.
And some people don't like IPAs, but, you know.
I happen to be one. I'm not an IPA.
You like this IPA, though. This is a good IPA.
I like it. You know, there's a lot of, I think we talked about this last time you were here, and that's that there's a lot of education. Well, first of all, there's a ton of education about directing, everything visual, cinematography, editing even.
Right.
And of course, MZ's got a whole bunch of it, and I know many of you are MZ Pro subscribers and members. But there's very little about sound, which is why Cinema Sound exists at all, and it's one of the reasons why all of our fantastic sponsors are supporting Cinema Sound. But there's even less about how do you produce, and I don't know of any course outside of a 4-year education, which doesn't teach you very much, on how to create an independently made film on a budget, how to cut corners without cutting production value corners. And here's the thing about Sven, he's been through all kinds of stuff and knows all kinds of corners to cut without, you know, not the non-false economy cuts.
It's where you can save money without losing, you know, quality.
Yeah.
So it's great because this is an education where, because there are so many content producers out there, but there's also filmmakers, and it works for both because you have to have the skills to produce, to bring people together, to get your equipment, to get your contracts. It's like everything copyright for YouTube. You were just talking about copyright on YouTube, that they flag you for your own music. So it's like each one of these lessons is like how to cast, how to, you know, just your deal memos, everything. Because you have to do that, even at the smaller little levels, because everybody gets greedy and they want more, and you're like, look, we have a contract. Even with your friends, have a contract.
Especially with your friends.
Right?
And especially ×2 with your family.
Right. Because there's all this expectation. And it's like, look, it's right here in the contract. Let's just be honest before people get greedy and the money starts, you know, because everybody thinks, oh, we're going to make a fortune. So it's like, well, no, this is, you know, here's our contract. This is what you can expect. And then there's no problem later.
Less problems later. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little distracted because you're really delayed right now for some reason.
I'm really delayed?
Yeah.
My audio is delayed or my video?
Your audio is delayed.
Huh. And you're watching it?
On the Skype.
Oh. Strange.
Yeah, that was... And then it caught up, and then it fell behind again. So I'm a little like distracted. And then I've got you with the 10-minute or 10-second delay.
Oh, I think it's like 40 seconds, yeah.
40 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. Let me just check to make sure it's actually streaming correctly.
Your audio is delayed.
Oh, I see. Your audio is actually delayed here too. So what I'm going to do is turn this down. Yay. And that... Give me another sound check.
This is how we fix audio on Cinema Sound.
In real time, on the show, yay.
Yay.
So actually, just so you all know what we're doing, we're using OBS to do this, for those of you who do podcasts and want to do visual podcasts. And I had no idea that you can actually do a remote stream over Skype. There's this thing called NDI. You all probably know about it. I'm just learning about it. We were actually doing a podcast with Axonar. And he was like, oh yeah, you can do this. I'm like, what? So what we're doing is we're running Skype, both of us, and then I'm running OBS to stream to YouTube. And Skype and OBS have this little interconnect audio-video connection from the Department of the Redundancy Department called NDI, and you can select that and use it. But what I'm just noticing now is that while we're streaming, and of course, OBS is connected to my Mark of the Unicorn 1248, so all the microphones, the screen, the computer, camera, everything's going into that, and then OBS uses it. But what I'm noticing is that the NDI audio is slightly, you were hearing it there for a minute, a delay, slightly different timing than what's coming out of the 1248. So now, Cam, if you will, and you can select that and use it. Here's me talking on a delay. Isn't this fantastic? It's like a time loop.
I can see you here, I can see you there, seeing you on the delay.
I know, it's so crazy. Just give me another sound check. Tell me more about, like, okay, so with respect to producing, there's a lot. I mean, you're the entire lifeblood of the production. When it comes to locations, which I hate the most, how will IPA help filmmakers with finding and dealing with locations?
Well, we'll have contracts. There's location contracts there, you know, and all that'll be downloads that you can get. But we'll also talk about where you can save money and where you can, you know, save problems. It's like, oh, let's use the available location. But then when you get kicked off in the middle of the shoot, that's not saving you money because you lost half the day driving to the next hopeful location. So that's the thing you don't want to do. So that's a lot of the advice. It's practical advice on how to, like, where you're going to get screwed. And if you don't, like, going cheap is great, but you want to make sure that you're covered.
Yeah. Yep. So great. All right. Anything else you want to talk about IPA before we drop into some footage that we need to fix?
No, I think we're realizing this footage that I'm giving you is 30 years old now.
Wow. What did you shoot it on?
Shot on Super 8. And that's the problem.
Well, the Super 8 actually, I mean, obviously it's been, I got an MP4, which is probably pretty low bandwidth.
Right.
But so I can see some of the JPEG grain. In fact, I'm going to switch us over here. Let's see if you show up. There we all are. Yay. Now let me show you something. We're in Adobe Premiere. Let me show you something. You've been seeing Mr. Cam at the ripe old age of 80 or 90 as he is now. But here...
A young 80, though.
He looks amazing for being 86.
Right.
But here he is at about 16. So what's really funny is, you know, I've known you a while. I would not, it took me like 30 seconds of watching
really?
this.
You didn't know it was me?
I didn't know it was you. I was like, what? Oh, that's Sven. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's not me there. I guess what I'm seeing now is the first.
It's this guy over here.
That's actor.
There he is. No, I know. You're getting that delay. But
okay. So I'm a little behind.
You've got a little mullet going on, kind of.
Yeah, it was actually a comment on the Times. I'm wearing a dangling earring, and I've got a little ponytail, and it was all about the fashion trends. The beginning of the film is all about pagers and how everybody's like got their pagers, and it was pre-cell phone. It's pretty interesting.
You know, there was a Facebook post that went out on the difference between the thing that Gen Z, which I guess is what they're calling people born after 2000, and Gen Y people don't know. And Gen X, us folk, and Gen Y, I mean, there's some things that are different, but generally, like my son who's a Gen Y, he knows what a dial tone sounds like. He knows what a cassette is. He knows what a record, an LP is.
A landline.
He knows what a landline is. He remembers what it's like to not have a cell phone. He remembers he doesn't remember when there's no internet, but he remembers dial-up vaguely because he was pretty young. But Gen Z people don't. And this thing, like this footage, some of you who are Gen Z, born after 2000, you're going to look at this and go, what the heck is he talking about? Was there ever hair like that?
Well, this was actually an experiment. The whole point of this was to see if I could shoot on Super 8 with a consumer grade camera. It had a microphone on it, and I just wanted to shoot something on film. And at the time I was shooting on 16 millimeter, but then you'd have sync sound, and you'd have a Nagra back when the Nagras were a thing. And this was just a little camera that I had, and I wanted to see if I could shoot a narrative film with it. And it didn't work because the sound was so bad, because the mic was on the camera and the sound of the film going through the camera, made it ridiculous. And that's the problem we're going to deal with here.
What is you probably can't see because of the delay. In the bottom right of the two shot with you and what's her name, there's a thing in the bottom left. What is that?
In the two shot?
Of you and what's her name? there's like a little, it looks like a microphone stand.
Oh, I don't know.
Or is that a prop?
I think that's just something that was in the room.
Okay. Cool.
I'm looking at your little markers that you're putting up. I'm a little behind, but I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
You know what's on the back wall behind the other two actors are laser discs. I was cutting live laser discs back then. So it was for editing. It was called EditDroid, and it was a 3 laser disc system. And so I was cutting analog laser discs, and they would use them for editing.
Wow. That is truly awesome right there.
It's a real blast of the past.
Like even some Gen Xers don't know what Laserdisc is, so that's pretty awesome.
Right, and that was an analog Laserdisc, so it wasn't even digital.
Wow. All right, well, let's take a listen to this scene. So y'all are gonna love this scene so much. Let me just say that. But we're listening from an audio perspective, not an acting or any other perspective, and we're reminding ourselves how wonderful it was to shoot on film. Let me make this a little bit bigger here for us.
I think with all the changes going on in the world that it's a real time for hope. I mean, think of all the things we could do with the money we save on defense. We could stop hating each other and do something really good for once.
What are you guys trying to say? We're going to go out and join the Peace Corps instead of getting something to eat?
Frank?
No. Lisa and I have decided to start seeing each other.
Well, thank you for being frank.
Frank.
I thought you guys hated each other. Yeah, well, we decided that with all the good things happening in the world, that...
Sounds pretty bad.
There's a few things that are bad about it, but the sound is what we're going to focus on.
We're not talking about the acting. We're talking about the sound quality.
Yeah, it's true. And so you recorded this on a what?
It was a Super 8 camera with an onboard microphone. It had a sound... back in those days, it was picture on one side, and to the right, they would record an optical soundtrack. But I think this was a metal tape. They would have tape on it. It was really interesting.
Oh, the bias of the tape was on it was a metal tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would develop it, and then the sound would be attached to the 8mm.
Yeah, for those of you who remember cassettes, and for those of you who used to make your own mixes, and for those of you who figured out how to do this, you could buy a metal tape. It wasn't actually, the tape wasn't metal. Like by tape, I mean cassette. You could buy a metal biased cassette, which was the big expensive ones. It cost like $8 in 1983. Or you could buy the normal, regular, cheapo ones, which cost like $2. And the real difference really was, yes, they made better tape out of it, but it was how the tape actually responded to certain frequencies, and you could change the bias. It's a weird word for what is really how hard the tape got driven in terms of volume, and then how much high frequencies or how much low frequencies, how much compression. So a metal tape would be able to take a lot of volume and respond to a lot of high frequency punishment, a lot of high frequency drive, which actually made it sound good. But for those of us who knew better, what you would do is take a normal bias where they had to be really, really careful, because it wasn't that great a tape, and apply the normal bias to the metal bias, which made it even louder and made it even more crunchy. So on these film, would they call that mag?
Yeah, I think it would be mag.
Like audio?
Because it was a magnetic, so
right.
It's called mag.
So you have
mag stripe.
Your film's doing this, like this, and then you have a linear stripe on one side that actually took up part of the picture space, right?
And there was a delay on that too. Well, no, they just pushed it over. I think it was a wider.
Oh, I see.
A wider film, still 8mm. The exposure was 8mm, and then there was just a stripe. And the interesting part about it is you couldn't cut it because you would be cutting audio, and the audio was not. The audio follow picture, but if you cut it, it would lose that track. So I had to transfer all this in one go, and you had to find a projector that would, I don't even want to get into it, but then it would project and have the audio attached.
Now you could cut the film, and you'd cut through the audio, but then what you would have to do is splice with tape to get the audio back, just like we had to do in the old days with 2-inch tape.
You wouldn't read it. It would be a bad audio cut.
Yeah. In fact, if you listen, we're going to watch this one more time. If you listen, you can hear on certain cuts, because he had to physically cut, the audio spewing up like this because of the nature of it. We'll go back here and play one more time.
Yeah, Russia and East Germany can change.
Let's go back here.
What are you guys trying?
Oh wait, back here.
That it's a real time for hope. I mean, think of all the things we could do with the money we save on defense. We could stop hating each other and do something really good for once.
What are you guys trying to say? We're going to go out and join the
You hear
Peace
that
Corps
one?
instead of getting something to eat?
No, Lisa and I have decided to start seeing each other.
Well, thank you for being frank.
And you can hear how the loudness
hated each other.
gets,
Yeah.
depending on
Well,
the
we
echo and
decided that
whether
we
it was
all would
facing
think
the
something-
camera or not.
Yeah, yeah. You can hear how that microphone is either facing towards, you know, whatever.
A wall,
Yeah.
and it's getting the ricochet back.
That's right, and really, it really shows we talk about this in the cinema sound education. If you're in a reflective room, and that is a reflective room, if there's something noisy in there, pointing a microphone away helps, but it doesn't solve it because it's just going to reflect and come back. So what do we do about this, Sven Cam?
We throw it away.
Throw it away, reshoot.
It's done. Yeah, just do it again with better actors. No,
ADR, the whole thing.
ADR, the whole thing.
Bring in James Earl Jones and.
Right.
All right, so we're here. Maybe.
So we put it into well, I did it on Premiere Pro, and there's adaptive noise reduction and click remover, which together worked really well. Adaptive noise remover is very, it has a lot of different ways of, you can adjust the noise floors, the noise so it will find that noise and cut it out. So that's the way I did it, but you're doing it a little differently.
Well, that's how we used to have to do this kind of thing in Premiere and in Audition using adaptive noise correction or removal. But now those are, obsolete. And although you can do it and we're going to look at it in Audition, in Premiere, if you've ever clicked the little button that says, hey, do you want to use the updated version? Then you can't really, at least I don't know how to use it. Go back and use it again, and I'll show you. If we go to, I'm here in Effects, that's this right here, and we're going to go to the search menu and say Adapt, and here it is. Adaptive Noise Reduction. You can see that it says obsolete, but we're going to drag this to the audio file, and what we're going to get, if we go to Effects Controls, is denoise. That's the new fangled cool thing that Audition has in it, which is amazing, but it is not adaptive noise at all. And we looked at this a couple weeks ago. I'm going to click on Edit. It's a really, really powerful audio plugin to fix, stuff that even RX would have trouble with. RX would have a pretty significantly difficult time getting rid of this unless you had RX6 Advanced and you had a dialogue isolate or one of these other things. Going in, if you've watched this chapter, I think it's Fix Chapter 7, where we deal with the crickets, maybe it's Chapter 8, I don't remember. That was a big deal to have to get rid of, periodic and aperiodic crickets. It's a big deal. And this is that same kind of thing. Even though you could tell RX, hey, this is regular, it isn't regular. And as you can see, cut to cut, not only is it
changes.
It's going, faster, slower, faster, slower, faster, slower, but it's also changing volume. It's changing. It's a mess. So this does a really, really great job of it. And as we've talked about before, really simple controls. You've got how much reduction do you want, and then you've got which frequency do you want to process? Do you want it to look at maybe the high frequencies, the full broadband, the mid frequencies, low and high, but not mid or just low. And then you have a gain boost. And then if you want to listen to the output noise, which I always suggest if it's got to be done and it's going to be a big, denoise process, that way you can hear how much of the dialogue's getting crunched. Because like I always say, you're probably tired of hearing me say it, there's always a coefficient. You can't have no noise and no artifacts. You're either going to have all the noise and no artifacts, or all the artifacts and no noise. So we got to find that balance. So let's check this out. We're going to just start with the broadband, and I'm just going to play through this.
Hated each other. Yeah.
Is that kind of like fast, good, and cheap? You can't have all three.
I don't know. Yeah, it might have some correlation to that. People say that, oh, you know it's a good job when you can pick any two, but success would be if you could pick any one.
Really?
Think about that.
Just good.
It's good.
I would pick good.
Regardless of price or time, it's good. Yeah. Or it's cheap, regardless of good or it's fast, regardless of price or good. That's success. Pick one. To me, I don't know.
I get you. I try and pick two. Maybe I'm greedy. I want two.
Well, I think that's good if for like a job, somebody's hiring you, then, I mean, that's certainly better than three, right? Which is what a lot of times we end up with in the independent
So your
world.
success is as long as you get one of them right?
No, success for me is that the client only gets one. You give them a choice. You can have it good, or you can have it fast, or you can have it cheap. You can't have it good and fast and, you know, like whatever.
Okay.
That's the theory.
Yeah.
No. Hey, Jerry. Yes, sir. Okay, let's, okay, so we're on broadband. Let's check this out.
We decided that with all the good things.
So here it is at 0. Obviously all the noise and no artifacts. Here it is at 100.
Yeah, Russian, English, German, it can change. So can we.
Wait a second. You guys are getting together because of recent.
Sounds good to me.
Well, it's good. It's just the high end's being sheared off and, you know, the dialogue's being suppressed quite a bit. So let's see 50%. And we'll just raise it.
Things going on. I think we have a chance.
There's 60.
What about Central America? They're all screwed up. We're still fighting the Sandinistas.
70.
And the death squads in El Salvador. They go around killing people by the thousands.
80's pretty good. We're getting some of that noise in the dialogue. Let's go back to 75.
Well, there's still Poland.
And let's listen to the output noise.
Introducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
That's just the noise?
Yeah, that's just what it's
cutting out?
Yeah, that's just what it's killing, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. It tells you what it's stealing as well, what it's taking out of it.
Yeah, and especially with her voice, because her voice is right at the same kind of frequencies as the shutter.
I didn't want to say anything, but her voice was kind of grating like noise. It just bit right through.
I wasn't going to say anything either. But,
yeah, I didn't want to say that.
Well, there we go. Sometimes that happens.
My voice is kind of noisy too.
So we're getting a lot of the voice denoise, which we don't like. So let's try one of these other frequencies. Let's just focus on higher frequencies and see if we can get a better result. And then maybe low and high. Mid. Okay, now let's go back and see if it's that much of a mess. By mess I mean, is it mashing on their dialogue too much? We don't want to denoise it so much that when we put a compressor on it in the mix and add some high frequencies, like we would in the mix, that we're just getting weird noises from this process.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
Oh, there's still Poland. They're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
That's really good. Now that's the mid. Let's try the highs. We'll go back again. Hey Jerry, what are you asking? Would RX would do the same process? No, RX doesn't have this plugin. RX6 Advanced has Dialogue Isolate, which probably would do the same thing. But Dialogue Isolate, you can't preview. You have to process and then go back and listen, which is kind of a pain. This new thing from Adobe Audition, which is also in Premiere, is truly amazing, and you're seeing how.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
They go around killing people by the thousands.
They're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
So that's actually really good. So we're going to bring this down to 65%, and let's see if we get too much more of the shutter.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
It's there, 70%.
That's not so great.
Oh, there's still Poland. They're reintroducing solidarity.
So if we compare that to the mid.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
Oh, there's still Poland.
And then maybe broadband.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
No, I think I like the high frequency better.
We're still fighting the Sandinistas.
And the death squads in El Salvador.
That's 73%. Now, for those of you who are like, I still hear it. Yes, of course. Let me remind you what it sounded like before.
We could work out I think we have a chance.
Are people talking? I can't really hear it over the noise of the camera.
Hear them this with it on?
What about Central America? They're all screwed up. We're still fighting the Sandinistas.
Off.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
Amazing.
That's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland. They're reintroducing solid.
So what's happening, just so you know, is it's doing a really great job of killing off the shutter. Where you're hearing some of that artifacture is from the reverb in the room, where it's really having a hard time hearing, figuring out that decay. So what we might try, and I'm going to do this in Audition because it'll be a little bit easier to do. But what we might try is a real subtle denoise, de-reverb, which is also brand new in the Adobe products. But let's bring this over to Audition. And for those of you who have never done that, the wonders of dynamic linking. What have I got here? Exclusive plugin, interesting. Yeah. We talked about this on the show a couple weeks ago. We did some crazy demos, which were awesome. Okay, so here's how we do this. Now, what's cool about this, theoretically, is we're going to have this plugin, the Denoise plugin, is going to remain on this clip. Excuse me, dinner. And then when
Can you take that noise out of you burping?
The me burping later.
Yeah.
But we're going to send this over. Theoretically, that plugin should remain. So let's see what happens. I'm going to go edit. Oops, edit. Edit in Adobe Audition. Now you can send the clip over and bring it back, but as you know, that is a destructive process. Nowadays, it actually makes a new audio file, but it'll come back and it'll be just that clip. Or what we want is the whole sequence, because then non-destructive, that way your session, I've done this before. And what it does is use the pre-existing video from Premiere. It doesn't recopy it, it's just there, bang. And if you've never seen this, it is so dope cool. If I say right clip and say disable, picture goes black. I go to Audition, picture goes black. Unbelievable. Enable, picture comes back, bam, it comes back here too. All right, so let's see if it makes a liar out of me. Here's the effects rack. We're going to click on the clip and clip effects, and there it is. Denoise, brought in just like we had it here. Let's double check that the settings are correct. We have it here, 73, high frequency emphasis.
Solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just asked it.
Just like we had it in Premiere. Unbelievable. So what we want to do now is, and of course, I wanted this to be on this down here. Can I just bring this down? Yes, I can. Now we're going to try de-reverb first. De-reverb. Looks exactly the same, only it does a completely different thing. You still have this frequency emphasis, and then how much of it do you want? And then instead of listening to the reverb, you can actually do an auto gain, which you really want to have on because it tends to balance things out and also help the dialogue get a little bit louder. All right, so we're going to turn denoise off, so we're really going to hear that shutter.
America, they're all screwed up. We're still fighting the Sandinistas.
And the death squads in El Salvador.
So we want to get rid of that roomy ringiness. And that's going to be probably here in the mid-range. Let's turn this all the way up.
America, they're all screwed up. We're still fighting the Sandinistas.
And the death squads in El Salvador.
Let's listen to the
They go around
lows.
killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland. They're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less
A little more of it
oppression.
in the
And
lower.
Czechoslovakia,
Yeah.
they just
How about
asked
the
it
lows and
for
highs?
and are working toward more human rights. There's so much change going on in the world.
He's really quiet.
They go around killing people by the thousands.
No, how about
That's
highs?
not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland.
No.
They're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And
And
Czechoslovakia.
this is just the reverb you're working on?
Yeah, I'm just listening for the reverb, the ring in the room. Thank you. Yeah.
And the death squads in El Salvador. They go around killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland.
What's interesting, and we learned this a couple weeks ago, is that on the de-reverb, it actually does a really great denoise pass all on its own. I mean, listen to it off.
And the death squads
And
in El
on.
Salvador. They go around killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
It's pretty interesting. It's not doing what I wished it were, but it probably will help a little bit. So we're going to leave this at 50%, and then we're going to bring up denoise along with it. We'll turn this on, and which will change our settings a little bit because now they're both working in serial.
And the death squads in El Salvador. They go around killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland. They're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
Just going to adjust
And
this.
part of that is a little
They just
distortion
asked
on the
for more
microphone. It's not a
and are
great
working toward more
microphone.
human rights. There's so
It's true.
much change going on in the world. Soon we'll have a world economy and no need for defense. Just think, we can spend all that money fighting world hunger.
Well, this is probably not helping as I wished it were, but Jerry's actually got a really, really great suggestion, which is what if you put a gate on that? And what if you put a gate which would sort of simulate cutting off reverb tails? Now we've got the shutter probably in a really good place, and if we can cut off that reverb just good old-fashioned way, maybe that's good. So let's do this. We're going to switch out D-reverb with amplitude compression. Let's see, which one of these do I want to use? Actually, let's use dynamics processing, which most of you go, this plugin's so crazy, how do I use it? Well, the good news is I've got a video, we've just shot all these videos on these plugins that we would use in post, and they're going to be coming out in the next week or so. About 20 different videos on the basics of how to use this, including this crazy plugin. And you're like, man, there's no knobs, how does it work? Well, it's a bit weird. If you take any of these lines and push them up, you see this line that's right here, this little kind of quiet line. If this blue line, which represents your output, goes above it, that means the signal is being boosted. What that means is that once the signal reaches about -10 or -12 here, it's getting boosted, how much? Well, a lot. So as the signal comes up, it's getting louder and louder and louder, and then being brought back until it's back to 0. If I do this, then it's actually being reduced. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Just like a compressor, as the signal comes up, it's being brought down. And you can look down here and see, let's see here. Undo, undo, undo. I'm losing Flynn. What am I doing here? Oh, there. You can see down here what's actually happening. It gives it to you in kind of like a numeric, breakdown. So what we want is to expand this somewhere. We'll figure out where, but this is a really powerful tool.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
So you can see the dialogue sort of living up here.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. They're reintroducing solidarity. And
cool. So obviously a horrible setting. So we want to kind of smooth that out.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. They're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just asked it the hard.
Yeah, he's kind of a problem because he gets a little bit quieter, so he may skew the results.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. That's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. They're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And what I'm doing is just trying to balance out so that it's not, so going go, 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 like that, which might be kind of hard to do given the circumstances, but let's see.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
This is kind of a worst case scenario.
It is.
They're still Poland. They're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists and are working toward more human rights. There's so much change going on in the world. Soon we'll have a world economy and no need for defense.
Yeah, theoretically what we would do here with him is we would mix him in a different space, which we can do. We'll just go
solidarity and working towards less oppression.
There he is.
And Czechoslovakia.
All the way to here. We'll cut, and then we'll just bring him up in volume because that's what we need to do.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists and are working toward more human rights.
Cool. Of course, I put this on clip effects, which is one of the great reasons why we put plugins on track effects, not on clip effects, because I just made a new clip, and this is no longer assigned to it because it's only on clip. Boo, hiss. We'll do clip. We'll do track effects. Perfect example. That is a perfect example of why we never put these things on clips for audio. Now, you might do this for something else, but for us, I'll just turn this off. We'll go back to track effects, put this onto Denoise once again, and the settings we had was 73%. I think it was high frequency, yes. Don't output noise only. Back to dynamics processing.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists and are working toward more human rights. There's so much change going on in the world. Soon we'll have a world economy and no need for defense. Just think, we can spend all that money fighting world hunger.
There you
and
go.
Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists and are working toward more human rights. There's so much.
Let's see if it balances.
And
Oops.
reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists.
Of course, what happens is when you bring that track up, then it's called the shutter comes up too.
Solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists and are working toward more human rights. There's so much change going on in the world. Soon we'll have a world economy and no need for defense.
Yeah, he's a hard one.
Yeah.
All right, let's put the denoise back in.
You guys are getting together because of recent political events.
In.
There's so many great things going on. I think we have a chance.
What about Central America? They're all screwed up. We're still fighting the Sandinistas.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
It's still
not
pretty
so
strong.
great.
Well, there's still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline.
Ooh. Unfortunately, we can't bring him up that far.
Introducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
Well, it does help with the reverb a little bit. It's a little bit more choppy now. But the answer would be adding some room tone. I know you're like, wait, what? Are we really adding room tone to something that's already noisy?
What about Central America? They're all screwed up. We're still
Let's
fighting
see.
the
At least it's a
Sandinistas.
consistent room tone.
Correct.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, there's still Poland.
Sorry to say, because he's so close to that the shutter setting. Yeah, RX surgery, maybe, but RX is not going to do a whole lot better. We can try it. In fact, why don't we try it? Just for shits and giggles. We're going to go dated original, open.
It's kicks and giggles.
No, kicks.
Kicks and giggles.
Kicks
That's the
and
PG
giggles.
version.
If you have time at the end, here's a link to 2 awful audio clips. Same recording, but with different mics. That's fantastic. Let me just start downloading those while we're here. Oh, I can do that from here. I'm going to Dropbox this while that's booting. Jody, I need the link, the actual Dropbox link, because I can't sign into Dropbox because Dropbox hates me. So if you have the link for the thing, that's what I'll need. Let's see this in Audition. Ooh, look at how pretty that is. Look at this line up here at 16K. That is really awesome.
I can't see it.
I know you will in a second. Let's route this correct to 7 and 8 so everyone can hear. Boom, boom.
Just think, we can spend all that money. Just think, we can spend
Okay.
all that money fighting world hunger.
I read this article that said that we were coming to the end of world.
All right, let's go to normalize, 3 dB.
Oh, now I see it.
Yeah, pretty.
Death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by...
All right, so we're gonna go like this. We're gonna go to dialogue isolate. And like I said, you can't audition this. So this is actually a minus 22 decibel noise gain, separation strength 10, dialogue gain 0. Sounds good, let's process. Let's see what it does. You can see all the compression artifacts up here at the top, all that weird junk. Ooh, it's working hard. Yeah, Jody, if you have that as a link to the actual file, not something that we can look at under, so that I don't have to log into Dropbox, that would be great. 8 seconds remaining. I don't think it is. I think it's longer than that. The nice thing about RX is that it uses all your processors. Okay, what do we got?
I think we have a chance.
What about Central America? They're all screwed up. We're still fighting the Sandinistas.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, there's still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists and are working toward more human rights.
That's
Pretty
pretty
good.
good, I gotta
Yeah.
say. I mean, what's his name would have been ADR'd for sure. Let me normalize this because it's kind of hard to hear now that we brought it down.
I think we have a chance.
What about Central America? They're all screwed up. We're still fighting the Sandinistas.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, there's still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists and are working toward more human rights.
Well, you can still hear it in there. What's hilarious is if you look really carefully, that's the shutter right there, all these clicks, these little lines. And you can see how it's going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, which really, really compounds the whole problem. Because if it was just straight pitch, it would be a lot easier to deal with because of the inaccuracy of the motors or whatever. I mean, it's kind of beautiful art. It's just kind of this nice little bead pattern that goes through this whole thing. What would be interesting is if we do a spectral denoise for a second, see what that does. Where did my spectral denoise thing go? Oh, it's being hidden by this. Hi. So if we learn, actually here's a better place. I got a little bit of a sibilant here. Okay, let's learn this, and then let's do a process just for kicks. See if that an extra denoise will help. 20 decibels, somewhere musical noise. Yes, bang. This will go fast. See if it helps anything. Well, it certainly did.
And Denise does.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline.
Well, it definitely helps, but it doesn't make it any more useful because now it's popping in and out. So, Jody, if you've got that link, we'll take it, the second link.
That's why I think ambient room tone would really help it.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, just so you can see how it used to be, we're going to turn off dynamics processing and denoise, and we're going to bring up in Audition adaptive noise reduction. Now this is a red bar plugin, which means that you have to have a really fast computer to run it. But it should give us an interesting example of how it used to have to be.
And the death squads in El Salvador.
And we'll make this 1K FFT size.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
So that's not bad. In a world where that was the only thing that you had, it's not too bad. But if we compare that to the denoise, let's bring it up again.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland.
Oh, I got both of them running. Sorry.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
Again, adaptive noise.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
It definitely does better with the noise, but there's more artifacts. Let's turn up denoise a little bit more.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
So it's probably a little bit more useful because how it handles the clicking only shows up in their voice, and it's doing its own sort of pseudo gating. We just get a little bit of confusion of the reverb part. Cool. Jody, if you've got that other link, that would be great. Otherwise, what do you think, Cam? What's the verdict for you?
I think it's a lot better. I think that, you know, it's night and day. You know, it's totally unusable or some artifacts. I'd take some artifacts any day of the week. And this is the worst case scenario. You would never have that much noise. So, you know, if you had even a little bit less noise, it would have been, I think this would have been amazing. So for me, it works. Maybe a little bit of background noise, room tone.
Oh, yeah.
Really
let's do that.
It all out.
While Jody's getting me this link, if she will, let's really crank on the denoise.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Well, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity.
Which means you're really hearing a lot of that stuff cutting off and artifacts and things, and the noise is being kind of messed with. So what let's do is we're going to use audio 2. I'm going to jump into my sound effects library here. Excuse me, let's see, air. Sound effects, ambient world, alto choral, room. Actually, let's just say room. Room. Oh, transporter room. Let's use that.
Yeah, right.
Hey, room tone loop. Which one's this? Perfect. Oh wait, that's from Apple. That's those super short ones. Room tone, hum, ventilation. Ooh, that's cool, but wrong.
I like it.
That'll actually make it sound like you're on an airplane.
Yeah, I think that they were in a little tiny airplane.
So Jody, there's a way to share just that link, just the file link itself. Because this link forces me to have to log into Dropbox, which unfortunately I cannot do. Please register, because they're like, oh, you're over your allotted amount, which I'm like, how can that be? Okay, so we're gonna take this, just drag this in, bang, there it is, wonderful, thank you so much. We're gonna solo. There it is. We're gonna tweak it just a little bit so that it doesn't sound quite like that. We're gonna go to Parametric EQ. We're on track effects, not those horrific clip. That about 430 Hertz. We're gonna help ourselves with some hiss. Ooh, let's use a shelf. Excellent. And we'll kill everything that's above, say, 12K. And you're like, Mark, that doesn't sound like a room. I know, that's because it's way too loud. If we bring it down, and actually, Cam, the room tone that we're hearing now is actually your place. So I'm gonna turn you.
Is it? This is the room tone you recorded in the
I'm
studio?
hearing your room toniness. I'm gonna pull you down here for a second, just so that it's not disturbing, because room tone is really crazy. Okay. Now it's just this. And we'll turn them back on.
The death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
And what we want to pull out of this room tone is where their voices sort of are as well, that kind of sound that's there at around 800, 900 Hertz or so. So let's find that.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
We're looking for this in the ambience.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
It's kind of there. We're going to widen this up.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
Great. So we've got that, and now what we want to do is add some reverb. Now we never want to add reverb to a channel itself, because we'll probably use it on something else. So we're going to go tracks, add stereo bus. We're going to call this reverb. Let's drag it over here for a second so it's not in the way.
And the desk.
So we're going to go send one. We're going to tell it to go to the reverb bus and turn it up full.
And the death squads in El Salvador.
There it is, just there. It's probably way too loud.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
Let's add ourselves a little stereo convolution reverb like this. Convolution reverb. Hello. And then, let's see. Judge's chamber might not be too bad. Let's have the mix up at 100.
And the death squads in El Salvador.
Lovely, just horrifically too much.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland. I mean, they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
So we've added a very, very little amount of reverb to help cover up the artifacts that's been happening in the denoise process.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
Let's turn it off for just a second. I'm going to mute the reverb bus.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
And with it on.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
Now you may not be able to hear it so well because we're streaming, but it's definitely there. And now if we turn everything off.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
Like that's awful. And it's even more awful if we turn denoise off.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
So put it all together once more.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands.
And you know what else you might do? Just because. We're going to take adaptive noise off. We're going to change this into a parametric equalizer like so. And we're going to just do a little bit of, I don't know, it's probably 6K.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland, and they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less.
Yeah, about 6.
And the death squads in El Salvador.
Just to give us a little bit of sibilance.
And the death squads in El Salvador, they go around killing people by the thousands. It's not so great.
Oh, they're still Poland, and they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
It's not the greatest thing we've ever heard, but in terms of fixes and cheats and all that, Cam, I'm going to bring you back up here. You're back, sir.
Okay.
What do you think?
It sounds like we swallowed a couple of crickets that they're chirping when we're speaking a little bit, but no, and you know, it's interesting because I also did that. In Premiere Pro, you can add the dialogue track. You can put a little reverb in the room, make it a warm room or you know, a concert hall. And I found when I did that, it got rid of a little bit of that because it cuts out so much and it's choppy. So when the room's a little more wet, it sounds a little better. And I feel like that helped a lot.
Yeah, totally. It's not the best, you know. It's not a great solution. And
worst case scenario though.
The real solution, and we'll be talking about how to do this. Actually, in the next volume is ADR. You'd be ADRing this really, bringing the actors back in, and then in Adobe Audition using automatic speech alignment to put things together. Obviously, your editing tools as well. But I think in terms of helping, adding some cheats, since you're going to be adding ambiances anyway. It really helps. So Jody, thank you, Jerry. I'm glad you think so. I got that email and it sends me right back to the same place where I have to sign in, etc. You know what I need to do? I need to make a Google Drive folder.
There you go.
That I'm just going to share with all y'all to upload the files to, if you if you want, because somebody else tried to share something from WeTransfer and it got messed up. So Jody, I tell you what, let's do this for next week. Let's have that file, and we'll just. It doesn't matter that we'll be in the effects volume. Just upload it. What I will do is make a Google Drive, and I will share it here on the show, the link, and then you can hopefully just pull it up and drag it in, and then I'll have immediate access to it. That's the smartest thing to do. That way we don't have these troubles. Hey, Mr. Cam, what else do you think we ought to do to this? Anything?
I don't know. Loop it.
Loop it. Add some music. Where's the sound effects? How about Foley? What I love about this so much, I'm going to open this undock panel.
Have a laser battle going on in the background so you don't notice.
Well, you got laser discs going on in the background.
There are laser discs in the background. They could be battling.
I love the grain.
Squads in El Salvador.
And all the dust.
Oh, it's so dirty and messy. And
they're reintroducing solidarity and working towards less oppression.
And Czechoslovakia, they just ousted the hardline communists.
Just all that cool stuff. I just love that so much. That is so
yeah,
great.
There's a lot of, it's Super 8. And it's all in it. If you look at it, the frame is weaving too. It's just kind of bobbing around.
Yeah, it's got that thing going on.
Yeah.
Well, just like we can see in this waveform here in RX, you just watch the shutter moving. Now, some of that's motor, because the motors aren't ever going to be perfect, but on a Super 8 camera, that's probably the reels turning.
Yeah.
And it's probably some drag on the reel. And you can see here in RX in particular, this cut. You see these lines that are up here. Let me show you. Ooh, there's your phone. These lines that are up here, that doesn't have anything to do with the film. That's actually in the transfer. So when we listen to this.
I thought you guys hated each other. Yeah, well, we decided that with all the good things happening in the world.
So something happened in the digital transfer besides this giant click.
Yeah, well,
oops, let me get both tracks.
Yeah, well, we decided that with all the good things happening in the world.
Something crazy happens there. So one of the great things about having more than just a waveform, but a spectral view, is that you can catch all these little things. Remember, a waveform view looks like this. And although you'd see that tick, which is right here, this little thing, that's about all you'd see. But with that spectral view, which is, I almost look in spectral view now whenever I have to look at something, more than waveform view. This is the place to be. Get used to seeing these kinds of things. Thanks, Jody. Thanks for understanding. And thanks for bringing that clip. We're going to look forward to getting it. Cool. Cool. Wow, it's 7 o'clock already. Hey. So,
time flies when you're having fun.
Make sure I didn't miss anything. Let's see, it's Jody, Jerry. Let's see, would a mask with the same frequency reduce the shutter noise? Would a mask with the same frequency reduce the shutter noise? The problem with the frequency, with the shutter noise, is as you can see, let me go back here. Sorry. It is the bulk of the frequencies. I mean, it's basically from the top of the frequency spectrum, looks like down to about 1K. Let me just make sure I'm... Oh, actually, it goes lower. Frequency? Yeah.
It's a good sound effect all by itself, just the Super 8 camera noise.
Super 8 camera noise. We actually, last week, we spent a whole bunch of time messing with software to make cool sound effects. But I mean, that goes down to about 600 hertz, so I'm not sure which frequencies we'd mask. Obviously, there's some loud ones in here, like this stuff right here. Come on, here we go. This right here, that's a loud one. That's another one. That's another one. So if we did that, we could select these. Maybe, I think there's one here too. Nope. And just say we silenced him for a second.
Frank.
It's still there.
I
mean, and you would know. It sounds like there's somebody mowing the lawn outside, even without those fundamentals or those overtones.
Yeah, that's back when they used to use lawnmowers and not leaf blowers.
Leaf blowers. Oh, you got music in here too. Yay. Well, oh, I was doing all that and nobody could see anything. I keep forgetting I'm on the wrong thing. Hey, I was looking at this. Yay. All right.
You could see my face, which was really great.
Yeah, as long as we can see Sven Cam's face, that's what matters most. So this is the end of the Fix volume. We've got 7 weeks in and we spanned the new year. Then next week, I'm not totally sure what we're going to be doing, but I know it'll be something to do with recording sound effects. If you have not downloaded the Cinema Sound Foley library, if you pre-ordered it, now please do this week. Just get to it, and that way we can solve any issues that you might have. And otherwise, oh, I tell you what, 4K, what is it called? 4K, what are they? Oh yeah, 4K Shooters. 4K Shooters, the website, the blog site, just picked up our battery article and posted it. So go give them some love tonight.
Awesome.
or tomorrow. So that's super nice of them. So until then, I'm going to hit play on the music. If you've got more questions, just let us know. Say thank you to Mr. Sven Cam for visiting us. I'll stick around for just a couple minutes while I put some things away. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. It's always a gas having you on board. Oh, I got to go to this session. Yay. Here we go. Back to the lovely music.
All right.
All right. I'm going to go to solo. Actually, I don't have to go to solo unless you want to hang around here for a second.
I'm good. Thanks.
You're good? Okay. I want to get out of here. I got stuff to do. I'm hang on to your dumb show.
That's good.
All right. We'll see you, Cam.
All right.
Well, we got rid of him. Ah, fun. Thanks again, Jody, Jerry. All right, kids, I'm going to sign off a little bit earlier, but have a great time. We will see you next week.